Well, hello everyone. You hear show you right here, like talk about for made up, fail quickly, and this right here talks about for any type of agendas, and it also could be like chores or any other type of jobs, especially. And you're like Warren Tor that if most of us have had that emotional feelings such as is to where that and if you didn't have if you had directions around at some point, but then you're like Warren Tor if you were follow them clearly and as well as anything that you were concerned about getting the job done especially. But this right here would be example right here of me right here is if I were to be what you call working on something and trying to think, it takes me a few seconds just to be able to figure out. It's like if I did it right or if there was anything that I did wrong, and it's like knowing about anything about anything that I was working on during a daily work skill. And that's just a thing though, is to where that anybody that may warrant, or that that we've heard that we may have heard that before, to where if you're just messing around, and then more likely chances are that it's not going to be approved, or something that's going to go on that's it's going to cause the work to fail. But still that I know that other people that anybody who's going to be working a task and thinking necessarily to where that while they were working something that if they were to call the way they did the process and in the way that they were working on it could be as to where that sometimes you may want to say is to where that well, fine, serve it your way. But and so that's the thing though, is to where like for made up, fail quickly. That we may think necessarily to where that anything that you just make up, if an idea that you come up with and thinking as to where, well, let's see if this works or see if that works. So that's basically what that's pretty much what I mean by made up and fail quickly. But anything that you just think about that you want to go ahead and experiment around with, or any ideas that you come up with as well. But so this right here will be like an example right here of a mood that I would be in, such as to where if I were to be have an idea about, try this or try that, and if anybody wants to it, well, you were working on something and then you didn't think that it would work, so you decide like, well, I failed, my fault, like, well, so sometimes that some people that may think that way, and you're like, well, no, you didn't feel that quickly. I like that because that for anything that you were working on, if you were trying to mail something or send something, use the email or anything like that, that we may assume that something failed just because that it's something that it did not, it may not, you may have not gotten the message right away about something, about if it was sent or not, or anything that was received especially. So that's just the thing though, is to where that for like made up, fail quickly, and so anything that we may not have clear directions on everything that we do, so that's why that we may assume is to where that made up fail quickly. So okay, well it probably failed. I'm wondering if it worked though. I'm like, I wonder if that idea worked, but so that's basically what I mean right there, is that for anybody that may warrant toward, between made up and fail quickly. So if anybody were to have an idea about something and you're like, while you were working on it, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I wonder if, well, I didn't get no message stating to where if it was received or if this was completed or not. And so that's just the thing, though, is if anybody will warrant to where that, what does it usually mean? How do we handle that to where that whenever something, if we were wrong about something and how something fails? And the way I think about it, though, is like, does that really mean as to where that person is not trusted? Or is the fact about that, that maybe the idea that didn't work, or that something went wrong and then it needs to pay attention to, or anything like that? So that's just a thing, though, is to where that this was right here, was me right here, and thinking about it, is to where that that anything, for whatever reason, like with anybody, that if they come up with an idea about something and it's like, I know, bad idea, I just thought I'd go ahead and mention it, in the discussion. However, people want to announce it, like, that you got an idea about something, and you're like, yeah, I know. bad idea. It's not going to work. But still, that anything about what we call for made up, you'll fail quickly. And I don't know if we want to call it like you for any type of action phrase, such as anything made up. Maybe not everything that's made up is going to fail quickly. There may be some things that more likely that would work, but then knowing basically about what's required just to help them work, especially. But working with the settings, especially, and knowing about for how you're doing it and in the way it's done, especially. But the have right there is like working something. If anybody knows about it, it's like, especially if you're going to be working something and you're like, weren't well, you got an idea about something, but you're not sure if it's going to work. And you may just remember something that, okay, yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to work or not because that we're missing something, or that this is what you call it, supposed to be done this way or that way. But so that's just the thing that you have right here is me right here. And like with me though, is that I keep thinking as to where that, yeah, if I'm getting ready to do something and I see something wrong, such as to where I don't know if this is going to work because that and one of those one of those things that like I could be maybe working on would be is to where if I'm trying to send any documents by email or some sort, or if it's anything about what you call anything that's done online or something like that. That you're like, anything that you're trying to do, that you're like thinking about is toward it. Yeah, well, it's that I don't know if this is going to work, but still, that yeah, I'll go ahead and try see what I can do here. But whenever directions are not clearly followed, it seems like to where it's automatically failed quickly. And so that's just a thing, though. If anybody were warned toward it, that if you're going to be working something, and I'm sure that anybody that may want to say is that well, it's try not to take it the hard way. Says like to where don't get discouraged over matters like that, because there may be some things that would that may work out properly as well. So you're like warned to where that the way that we may get in the habit of using the word fail a number of times. One of those would be toward it. Yeah, well, it failed, like, but or you failed. You failed this, or you failed that, and so that's just a thing that how do we know, and how can we assume that something had failed? And even though if you didn't get the message, such as FAIL, such as fail, flunk or anything like that, but it's still that you're like Warren to where that how do we know for sure if we fail something? And sometimes maybe after a few seconds that we keep thinking as to where, well, it failed, but on the other hand, that it's like maybe after a couple of days, or few seconds or a couple of hours or so. But other than that, it seems like to where that it goes by saying is to where that you'll be able to get somebody's attention. Maybe if something does not fail, that it was processed successfully. But anyway, we talk about this for made up. Fail quickly. Don't about it. Say for Minute 25. And thanks for watching. Have a great day.